Hey YouTube, and everybody watching. I'm Timothy Holt, this is Holt Growers, and I am in my kitchen remodel right now. So you can see right here we've got our water rough ends, we've got our box. This one's for the dishwasher, this one's going to be for the garbage disposal. And what makes this pretty cool is we're going to have a hidden switch. Specifically this one right here under our cabinet. So when you open up the cabinet door, you can turn it on, turn it off for the garbage disposal. Now that's going to take some planning. Just like anything in life, you're going to need to do some planning. In this case, we got to plan where our wire is going. Now I've already taken the liberty of running some wire right there. Okay. Now this wire is just your regular run-of-the-mill Romex 12-2 wire. It's going to run to a 20 amp breaker. So this is a 20 amp box, and this is a 20 amp low profile switch. We need a 20 amp breaker. That's going to be out in the breaker box. However, if I hook it up to the breaker box, before I hook it up to this box right here, and this outlet up to the switch, I'm going to have an electrifying experience, and that's not going to go well for anyone. So, first thing I do when I'm running any new circuit is I start at the end. Get this all where I want it, how I want it. Make sure I consult my electrical codes and building codes. And if I have any questions, consult a licensed electrician. By the way, I am not one. So if you're going to do this in your house, I suggest consulting a licensed electrician, especially if you don't know what you're doing, because you can cause an electrical fire or cause your heart to go into a lethal arrhythmia, and that's going to be a bad day for everyone involved. Now what we want to do is we want this to be our hot coming in from our box, from our breaker box. We want it to go to an invisible switch that's going to be hidden under our cabinet, okay, under the countertop, under the sink. We're not sure exactly where on that sink we're going to put it yet, but we know we're going to put that box somewhere in the sink cabinetry, okay, most likely right inside the door, so it's easy to use when you're getting ready to use the garbage disposal. You just simply open the door, go click, and you're good to go. Makes it simple as far as use and practicality. That way, if it's up on the countertop, you don't run the risk of running your garbage disposal dry thinking it's the light above the sink or something along those lines. We got to think about this. Our box is somewhere in this cabinetry and we don't know where it is, but we still need to run the wire for it, because we're going to put a vapor barrier up here. We don't want to run the wire after we put in the vapor barrier. That's not going to make a lot of sense. So we need to run that wire before we do that. Okay? So, how are we going to do that? We don't know exactly where this box is going to go with this switch, because we need to have the hot go to the switch before it goes into this box. It's a good question. I'm not sure exactly the right answer for that. So you've got two different types of boxes you can use. You can use these standard boxes. They're for a 2x4 wall or a 2x6 wall. Or you can use a low profile box, which is half as thick. And what we'll probably end up using is a low profile box in our cabinet so it doesn't take up a lot of space. But our hot wire has to come up from the basement into that cabinet, into this switch. Then it has to go from this switch to this outlet, all under the countertop, under the sink. Like I said, I'm not sure exactly how I want to do this, but I know what the finished product's going to be. And if you know what the finished product is going to be, you can work your way backwards. So my thought here is I have my wire come out. Okay. Because I have plenty of wire. So I have it come out. And right now, I have it come out. And I have it come in this cabinet right over here. Now, the nice part about this cabinet is we're not going to have a back on it. Well, the main reason we're not going to have a back on it is we've got all of these fixtures that we have to work with. And we might end up putting a partial back on it of some kind, but for the most part, we're not going to have a back. So my thinking is, for now, I bring this in to my high. I wire in our switch, but I leave enough service loop, extra wire shoved in here, so that when we do put in our sink and our cabinet, and we know where this switch is going, I can take this off, cut out a flap of that vapor barrier, pull out the wire from the back, fish it in, pull it into the cabinet, tape around it, and tape around my vapor barrier to keep that vapor barrier intact, wire that into my box and my cabinet, take another one and come back in and come into this box for my switch. I think that's how I'm going to do it. Just leave enough slack in here that I can do that. That sounds like a great idea to me. Okay. Because I'm probably going to use a narrow box, not a full-size box like this one or this one, in the cabinet. And I already know what switch I'm using. So, I like that idea. I also know I'm using what sink I'm using, because I still have that. It's the old stainless steel sink. It just needs cleaned up. So I know how wide that's going to be. And if I put it in the center post or center pillar between the two cabinet doors, that sounds like a good idea to me. Or right up top, right below. So you just open it up and go click on, click off. But either way, I'm going to need some slack. So while you're watching this video, I recommend do not do any wiring work without making sure there's no electricity going to it. I know there's no electricity going to this. Because there's a roll this size sitting down in the basement going nowhere. That way, after I wire this in and I have my plenty of slack to get this in, I can go down and I can take my wire staples, secure my wire as I go, and trace it all the way back to the breaker box, and then I don't have to waste very much wire. And I keep really long lengths that way, continuous lengths. So, let's see how much we want. So we want this to come up. Okay. We're going to have it come up right here along this stud. This is a double wall, by the way. If you've seen the other videos, you know why and how that's done. So it's going to come up here, right along this stud back here. Okay. And come out. Now I already marked on the floor where the end of our sink is, and I know I want this wire to come at least that far. Okay, so that's about right there. And I know we need a service loop in here, which is about an arm length. In addition to that, I've got other shorter lengths. I got a whole pile of short lengths over here, which should be enough to bring that wire back into here later. So I'm not worried about that. Alright, so we're going to bring this in. Okay. And we've got enough there to come all the way out to the middle of our cabinet. Alright, and back. But we still need our service loop, so we're going to go with another arm length right there. Boom. Okay. That's how much we want up here. And I think I'm going to put a single staple right there to hold it in place. Now that may seem like a lot of wire, but it's planning ahead. And in life you need to plan ahead. I know that I want to make minimal cuts to this vapor barrier that's going to go here for heating and cooling. So by putting all of this, that will give me plenty enough room to put my switch anywhere under that cabinet I want it. By the way, that'll probably be another video sometime in the future. So we're going to put this wire staple right down here near our base plate on our wall. And the reason we're putting it way down there is so we've got plenty of play later. Okay. The other reason we're putting it there is so when I go down and I secure the whole length all the way back to the breaker box, I'm not going to pull any of this out accidentally. And now all I'm going to do is kind of shove this back in here. Okay. And the method I'm using is my hot wire is lower right corner of my box. That's going to be my hot wire coming into any box, whether it's this one or that one or that one. It doesn't matter if it's a light switch or an outlet. The lower right corner is my hot coming from my breaker. If I need to bring in any other ones or have wire going out to a fixture or to another outlet, another box, then that's going to be in one of the other ones, preferably the top if it's going to a light, or the left side bottom if it's going to another fixture. That's just a shorthand for me to remember which one, once this is all closed in, is my hot. Which one's which. There's a little tab in there. Okay, which prevents that from going through. Now, speaking of lighting, we want about a hand length here, right there. Speaking of lighting, I'm reminded of an old story. Alright. About a guy. He said, "I am the light of the world, and anyone who walks in me and follows my teaching walks in the light. But anyone who does not follow my teaching and does not follow me and does not accept me walks in darkness. And when you walk in darkness, you will stumble, you will fall. But if you walk in the light, you will not fall, you will not stumble." So, there are 3 wires here. One of them is neutral. That's your white. Your black is your hot. And your uncoated, sometimes it's brown, sometimes it's green coated, but in this case it's uncoated, is your ground, and it goes to that screw right there. Now the nice thing about these is you don't have to loop it, you just got to stick it all the way in, and it's got a clip that it will clip to, and then you screw it tight. However, that's quite a bit of extra wire in there, so we're going to make that a little shorter. So, if we want this to work at all, we're going to have to eventually hook it up to the power supply, to the power source. In this case, that's a 100 amp power supply coming from the electric company. However, it could be a solar panel, it could be all kinds of different things. But you got to hook it up to some power even after you get all this hooked up. And just like Jesus of Nazareth said, I am the light, and any who walk in me and follow my teachings are going to be in the light. Just like with this, if I hook this up wrong, say I put them in backwards, it's going to trip the breaker every time. It's not going to work. And in your life, as well as mine, if we don't hook our life up and we don't plan ahead and we don't follow wise teachings and wisdom, our lives are going to be in shambles. It's not going to work well. So, now there are two different ways, two different sides here. One is kind of a silvery color, and that is lighter than your brass. Brass screw goes to the hot. Okay. And the lighter silver colored one goes to your white. And the easy way to remember that is the one that looks like it's white goes to the white. You want to make sure that's nice and tight and snug. You don't want it coming loose. Just like in your life, you don't want your life falling apart and being loose. So, however, if you do not respect this electricity, you don't respect what you're working with, it will burn you. It will light up your life in ways you can't comprehend. Shock you. It will could even cause your death. And the same thing is true with the gospel of Jesus Christ. If you reject it, if you reject truth, the truth will always be made known. And if you know the truth and you abide in the truth, in that light, you'll never live in darkness. However, if you reject the truth, you'll always abide in darkness, and you'll trip along through life. And when death comes, and trust me, it will come, you'll be left wanting. You'll be weighed in the scales, and your life will be for naught. It will be complete vanity. But if you order your life like I'm ordering this electrical system, you'll have eternal life. You'll have a steady supply of that life and that light and that power. Just like me putting in this box. If I order this right and I put it in and install it properly, everything will work well and it will last for decades. A very long time. Most likely the life of this house. Same thing with your life. Now also, if we try to get ahead of ourselves and we put in this vapor barrier, which is plastic sheeting, by the way, before we put in our plumbing rough in, before we put in our electrical rough in and our outlets, run our wire, it's not going to do any good because we're going to have to cut it all up. We're going to have to go in and repair it all. And as a wise man once told me, it is better to prepare than repair. So all of this is in preparation. Everything you see here is preparation. The insulation is preparation for when it's hot in the summer and we have the air conditioning running. It's also preparation for when it's cold in the winter so nothing freezes. If you look close enough, you can see where I ran these plumbing, the water lines. The hot water and the cold water are on the interior half of this double wall. That way, when it does get cold out, it's not freezing these lines. Because once this is all covered up, nobody will ever know until they uncover it. So we want to do it right. We want to do it well. Just like your life. Order your life well. Okay? So we put them in. Our drain line can kind of go back a little bit farther because nothing's going to stay in it. It's going to pour in and flush out, and you get rid of all the crap and waste. So not overly worried about it freezing, but at the same time, we don't want a big gaping hole in our insulation. So you might see a pile of insulation behind me. They're actually pieces cut for these bays, and we'll trim them a little more to go around our fixtures. But that's how that electrical box goes in. Now I get the task of taking all of my clips, all of my wire staples, and securing that wire, starting right below me in the basement and going out and over, and then through a wall into another room where the breaker box is. Once I get to the breaker box, I'm going to make sure I have enough to work with to wire in that breaker, and then cut it off of that big roll. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you contemplate the wisdom of life and all of the good things, because just like in your life, same thing is true here. If all of this is done well and up to code or even above code, preferably above code, this is going to make for a very comfortable house for someone else to live in, as well as the rest of my family. And if you order your life well, generations after you will benefit from it. So this is Timothy Holt with Holt Growers. I hope you enjoyed this little lesson, and don't take my word for anything the Bible has to say or anything about Christianity. Look it up, read it for yourself. May God bless you.